April 11, 20, and the April 11, 2024 meeting of the Elkhart City Board of Zoning Appeals to order. A few procedural comments. Tonight, we will have video comment by WebEx only. We do not take Facebook comments anymore. You can watch on Facebook, but you can't comment. If you are on WebEx, please mute your mic when not speaking, because otherwise we will pick up everything here. Make sure when you're on WebEx, and certainly here, speak up and identify yourself before you begin to speak. When you speak into the podium mic, make sure you put the mic right in front of your mouth and speak loudly. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to review and consider all requests for relief from any standard in a zoning ordinance, including variances, use variances, special exceptions, conditional use requests, administrative appeals. All of the cases heard tonight will have a positive, negative, or no decision made by the board. If no decision is made, the petition will be set for another hearing. If a decision is made that you disagree with, either as the petitioner or an interested party, you must file for an appeal of the board's decision no later than 30 days after the decision is made in an appropriate court. If you think you may potentially want to appeal a decision of this board, you must give this board a written appearance before the hearing. If you are here in person, a sign-in sheet is provided which will act as an appearance. You should sign the sheet if you want to speak, but also if you do not wish to speak but might want to appeal our decision, you must also sign in. If you're appearing by WebEx, please put your name and address in the comments section, and that will satisfy the appearance requirement. A written petition that is set for hearing tonight satisfies the requirement for the petitioner. If you file your appeal later than 30 days after the decision of this board or give no written appearance tonight, you may not appeal the board's decision. Because the rules on appeal are statutory and specific on what you can do, the board highly suggests you seek legal advice. If you are the petitioner, in addition to filing an appeal, you may first file a motion for rehearing within 14 days of the board's decision. And again, when you're at the podium, please speak directly into the mic. Now, we have three of us up here tonight. Thaleen, are you on? Thaleen, are you on WebEx? For purposes of the hearing going forward, we have a minimum quorum, which means we have 3 members present. That constitutes a quorum. We can constitute business with just 3 persons, but any decision made by us has to be unanimous. If there's any vote that is less than unanimous, it's considered no action, and the case will be reset for hearing next month. So that's how it goes. With respect to the public comment portion of the meeting, public comments will be taken only on the specific petition being heard before the board. Unlike city council meetings where there is time for anyone to comment on any issues, we do not have that procedure here before the Board of Zoning Appeals, and comments will only be taken for or against the petition that is before the board at the time. At this time, I would call for the roll call attendance.
Avandra Rickoff.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Mulvaney.
Here. At this time, I would entertain a motion to amend the agenda. There are 3 items that are going to be tabled tonight. That is 24 UV04, 24 BZA 06, and this one was just tabled. That's 24 UV07. Is that correct, Mr. Trotter?
Yes.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to amend the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Then the amended agenda is approved. Has everybody had a chance to look at the proofs of publication?
Yes.
Do I hear a motion to approve the proofs of publication?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The publication is approved. There's no only item of old business is 24 BZA 03.
Good evening. Mike Hewer, Director of Development Services, City of Elkhart. 24 BZA 03 is a developmental variance. The petitioner is Nancy Shum. The site location is vacant land on Toledo Road, parcel 0611-251-013. The request is to vary from section 12.4 yard requirements in the B2 Community Business District to allow for a 10-foot rear yard setback where 20 feet is required, a variance of 10 feet. The site is about 1.3 acres. Petitioner's here as well.
Is the petitioner here tonight, either in person or on WebEx? You'll identify yourself and tell us what you would like to do.
My name's Terry Lang from the Whiteman Company. Our address is 1402 Mishawaka Avenue in South Bend. I represent the petitioner here. On this B2 property, we have a proposed building to be located on it. We've met with...
Hang on. I hate to do this, but ma'am, you're going to probably have to take the child out. I hate to be the nasty person, but it's a little loud, unfortunately, and we have to have a clear record. Sorry about that. I know, you're a happy camper. Sorry about that. Okay, you may continue.
Children are children.
I have one of my own. I know how it was.
The petition before you is asked for a rear yard variance. We met with the planning department and the engineering department on the position of our building right here. If we follow the required 20-foot rear yard setback, it would eliminate extensive parking for the use of this B2 site. And the parking is kind of what we want to maintain. So the immediate property to the north of this site is the AEP warehouse where a lot of their transformers and cable and stuff are stored. It is zoned residential, but it is a warehouse industrial type use that AEP has right there. So what we had done is asked for a variance if we could just slide the building back 10 feet to the north such that we'd be able to maintain the parking. And we've worked with the planning department and the engineering department to work out the details so that we could make it fit in there and to their satisfaction. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Just to refresh our recollection, this has been up before us before, and this is a building that's being built but doesn't, at this point, have a public tenant or whoever's going to occupy it. Is that correct?
Correct. There's no tenant at this time.
My understanding, you've been working with the city so that there. Any questions for the petitioner?
Don't have any.
Thank you.
This time, I will open the public portion of the meeting. Anyone here in person or on WebEx who wishes to speak in favor of this petition? Is there anyone here in person or on WebEx who wishes to speak in opposition to the petition? Hearing no comments, seeing no comments, this time I'll close the public meeting and I'll call the staff forward for the staff report.
The petitioner owns approximately 1.3 acre parcel on the north side of Toledo Road, east of Middleton Run Road. The developer has submitted a proposal to develop the property as a 16,000 square foot building with associated areas for off-street loading and parking. The site is located on Toledo Road, an arterial road within the city. The proposed building, again submitted with the request, has no end user and user still unknown, or use is still unknown. Subsequent to the second filing, representatives from both planning and engineering met with the owner and representative. From the city's perspective, we wanted assurances of the type and level of quality of construction to expect at the property in question. The petitioner assured staff the building would be quality and an asset to the city. The petitioner also understands the uses allowed within the list of permitted uses in the B2 district. The property is currently zoned B2 Community Business District. The comprehensive land use plan does reflect industrial use for this area, drawing from the density of industrial uses found north and west of the site. Petitioner had previously submitted a petition to rezone the property to M1 Limited Manufacturing District. At council, the ordinance failed to progress for lack of a second for the motion. The Toledo Road corridor effectively serves as the southern boundary of the corporate limits in this area, connecting the city to the US 20 bypass. With a mix of city and county properties fronting on the road, land uses in the corridor between Goshen Avenue and Middleton Run Road is characterized by a mix of commercial, industrial, and multifamily uses. Land uses east of Middleton Run Road, where the subject property is located, become less intense with a larger presence of lower density single-family residential and small office uses. While the comprehensive land use plan does call for the industrial use at this site, the character of the uses immediately surrounding the subject property are not conducive to manufacturing or production uses, but would be better suited for supporting neighborhood or community business uses. Recommendation: the staff recommends approval of the developmental variance based on the following findings of fact. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community because the reduced rear yard setback will not place the proposed structure at an unsafe distance from surrounding structures. 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because the rear yard abuts a large campus occupied by Indiana-Michigan Power. 3, granting the variance would be consistent with the intent and purpose of the ordinance as a measure of relief is allowed when warranted. 4, special conditions and circumstances do exist which are particular to this property as the proposed building could not be constructed with the adequate required development standards. 5, the strict application of the terms of this ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property as the parcel may not be sufficient size to accommodate some of the potential B2 uses such as appliance stores, dry cleaner, and laundry. Indoor recreation and liquor stores are examples of uses requiring larger footprint building approved within the B2 uses. 6, the special conditions and circumstances do result from an action by or inaction by the applicant as the proposed building design is driving the request for the variance. 7, the property does not lie within a designated flood hazard. There's one condition. If the board chooses to approve the requested development variance, staff recommends that the following condition be placed upon approval. The petitioner shall submit plans for review and approval at tech review for the site and for proposed facade elevations. There were 12 letters mailed, 0 returned in favor, 1 returned not in favor with no comments.
What was the reason council failed to second it?
I believe this was a situation where the staff had recommended that the developmental, that the rezoning not be approved. I think, I don't know that I can't remember the outcome of the vote here, but the council didn't get a second on the motion. I'm assuming because of the recommendation from the staff and the planning
It was a different petition. They were trying to change
rezoning.
the zoning.
Right.
And this time they're just asking, they're okay with the zoning now, from what I understand.
That's correct.
And they're just asking to move the building back so it's closer to the property line.
Thank you. In a motion?
I move to approve 24 BZA 03 and adopt the petitioner's documents and presentation together with the staff's finding of fact as the board's findings of fact in the present petition and adopt all conditions listed in the staff report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. At this time, we'll call for the roll call vote.
Davis,
Yes.
Bonjarikov,
Yes.
Mulvaney.
Yes. It's approved. Next item is special exception 24X03.
The request is a special exception. The petitioner is NMVYT LLC, doing business as Voyant Beauty. The site location is 1919 Superior Street. The request is a special exception per section 18, 3L, special exception uses in the M1 Limited Manufacturing District for the storage of any liquid or gas in excess of 10,000 gallons, to allow for the addition of 2 10,000-gallon tanks and 2 5,000-gallon tanks.
Before we proceed, I need to disclose a potential conflict. As many of you know, I'm an attorney here in Elkhart. I currently represent a client who has a workers' compensation claim pending against Voyant Beauty. I don't believe there's a direct conflict because this obviously is a variance, special exception request, has nothing to do with workers' compensation, but I do need to disclose the potential conflict. If anybody specifically requests that I recuse myself, I will do so. Is there anybody who wishes to recuse me from taking action on this case? There being no objections, we will continue. Would petitioner please come forward?
Good evening. My name is Brian McMorrow. I'm with V3 Companies in South Bend, Indiana. I'm a civil engineer, and we were retained last fall to prepare site plans in connection with a proposal by Voyant to construct a building expansion to the back of the building, so between the building and the railroad tracks, of about 60,000 square feet, to increase the plant capacity of the product that has been manufactured at this particular site. Our firm did in fact prepare site plans, and we submitted them to the city last month. And just last week, I met with engineering staff to go through the tech review comments that they had written. We also met last December with Eric Trotter, Mike Huber, and other members of the staff to introduce our plans for the expansion. And Eric pointed out that, well, he asked the question, are there going to be any chemical storage tanks as part of what we're proposing to do? Of course there is. And he pointed out that we would need a special exception action by the Plan Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals. We also thought it was appropriate, given that Voyant has been conducting business in this facility for about 25 years or so, maybe more, that we provide the city with a full inventory of all the storage tanks that are on the site. So our packet of information includes not only a site plan, but it includes a list of all 19 storage tanks that are in the facility, and I highlighted in red the 4 that are new and going to be included when the building is expanded. I want to reiterate that the expansion is to merely increase capacity, so we're not introducing any new chemicals that aren't already under roof right now. We're just going to be adding more of them. I have with me Eric Collins, who is employed directly by Voyant Beauty and is very familiar with the operations in the building in case there are any questions. But I'll take a shot if there's any I can maybe answer for you.
I have a couple of questions. So first of all, the way I understand it, in the 10,000 gallon tank section, there are going to be 2 new tanks, and there are currently 8 tanks already there.
That is correct.
So there's 2 new tanks, 8 are already there.
Yes.
Under the 5,000 gallon tanks, again, 2 new tanks, and there are 2, 4, 6 tanks.
That's right.
Okay. I think that's a good point for us all to keep in mind. Mm-hmm. Secondly, my question is, and maybe it's to your associate, will there be any new jobs that will be provided by this expansion?
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate for me to defer to Eric. So Eric Collins, come on up.
Good evening. As stated, my name is Eric Collins. To answer your question, for the additional production line for that in association with the tanks for the construction, they're looking at hiring around 10 additional people per shift, so about 30. Okay.
Now, of the 4 proposed new tanks, it looks like 1 will be bulk water, correct? So 3 will be chemical. Do you know, it's probably tough question. Do you know what specific chemicals will be in those tanks at this point?
So the end product is an aerosolized room spray, and a lot of that information is proprietary to our customer. Obviously, we have alcohol tanks on site and water tanks on site. So most of what's in that tank is a combination of those two.
So the tank would be everything mixed together at that point?
Correct.
Okay. Bulk, or the alcohol, then that's bulk, and that's used to create the compound or mixture.
Correct.
I know there's been a lot of discussion about, leakage and spill control and that type of thing. Is there any risk of flame or explosion with these tanks?
No, when you talk about alcohol and the flash point, not to get into specifics, the room itself is, with the electrical and other components in it, are protected against that flash point that's inside that room. So the risk is relatively and actually very low.
How long have you had tanks like this in that building?
So I've been employed with Voyant for around 10 years, and I know that before Voyant it was Kit Custom Products, and so they've been in that ever since Kik has bought the property from, I believe, when it was Whitehall Industries. So it's been probably around 15 years on some of the tanks, and then back in 2014 there were some additional tanks that were put in as well.
Have you ever had any spillage or any kind of explosions?
Not at that address, no.
Are any additional safety measurements put in place with addition of the
Yes, so we have current safety measures that are already in place that will be expanded into where these tanks will be at. A lot of it has to do with the vapors. So obviously, as we put alcohol into the tank and displace, there's water that's in the tank, the alcohol gets added. If there are vapors, we detect the vapors and set off alarms. And what that does then is shuts off any of the alcohol supply going to the tanks until we can go and find out what the problem was. But there are safety systems in place for those rooms.
So these types of chemicals have been on this site for...
Correct. Correct. Okay. Yes, correct.
Any other questions for petitioner? Other comments?
I have nothing further to add right now, but obviously we're not going anywhere if there are any further questions from the
Okay,
public.
thank you.
Thanks.
All right, at this time, I'll open the public meeting. Is there anyone here, either in person or on WebEx, who wishes to speak in favor of the petition? Anyone here in person or on WebEx who wishes to speak in opposition to the petition? So please come on up and make sure you're signed in.
My name is Dale McDowell. I'm the president of the Riverview Association. I've lived on Riverview for 60 years, and so I have reached some of my people in my neighborhood have got some concerns the way it was written up in the paper. Unfortunately, I was not too far away when we had the other horrible explosion at Acropac. So naturally, there's a lot of concern when we see in the variance that they're asking for this 10,000 times 2 times 5 times 2 of liquid and gas. So my question is there going to be LP gas in the Whitehall building?
Petition, you want to respond?
Okay, my next question is, if we have this exception, could that be put in later under this same exemption?
No. No.
You understand my concern?
Yeah, any further additions, modifications would have to come back in front of us.
Okay.
If there's any change from what's been proposed, we would have to approve it.
Well, I'm concerned naturally about our neighborhood with a property of a school within a block. We have a clinic across the street. We have a daycare to the south across the street. We have an adult daycare. And after what I saw years ago, I don't want to bring that into my neighborhood or to put anybody in that situation. So I don't mean to be alarming, but I feel that as a neighborhood that we need to be assured that that's not going to happen. Okay, thank you very much.
You need to pull the mic down.
He failed to mention that there was water contamination.
Identify yourself by name first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Susan Bingaman, and I live on the corner of Homewood and Superior, which is just right down the street from the factory. And where they're going to add on to the building is right across the street from my house. And I've lived in that home for 66 years, approximately, give and take. So I was brought up in that home. And when I was a little girl, I have copies of some information for you to read that I don't know. Yeah, it's lengthy, but it explains it. As a young girl, I was told by my parents that that property was saved for wildlife because percentage per land, whatever, that's safe for wildlife. So that's what I'm looking at first. And in this letter that we got from the city, it didn't say anything about building onto the factory, but I knew if they were putting more flammables, asking for more flammables, obviously they're going to build a building. Plus, I asked some guy that was working on the property, I said, I'm a nosy neighbor, what are you doing? And he said, oh, well, I'm marking where the new factory is going to be extended out in the field with these red tags. So when I look out my kitchen window, I can see that there's going to be a factory in front of my house. The traffic in that area is terrible. We've complained to the city before because that ballpark brings a lot of traffic, and the skating park brings a lot of traffic, and that was initially built with the idea of the local kids would be able to use it, but it's adults that are driving there from, one time I found a empty McDonald's bag in the street and looked at the receipt, and it was from Mishawaka. So people are coming from Mishawaka to the skate park, which is okay, but it's just bringing in a lot of traffic, and there's a school there the next block over, which I'm very concerned about. And let's see, what else do I want to ask here? I went to the library today for about 2 hours and got a lot of information about when Acropac exploded, had the explosion, and I think that there was 2 buildings that had explosions with Acropac. And Voyant used to be Whitehall, and then it was, I believe, Acropac and then Kick, and now Voyant, but I think that they're all one and the same, just different owners or whatever. So my fear is water contamination and also an explosion, which 19 of our emergency responders were burnt the first time around. So, to me, I think this is common sense that, not in our neighborhood. We've already dealt with water contamination, and the traffic is ridiculous. And usually every year I come out and ask for the city to paint something on Superior about that it's a kids area, that it's a school district, and also over by the school, so that everybody knows when they're flying out of that park that they know that they should be slowing down for the kids. Now I know that the city is repaved Superior, which they had done that 2 years ago, and put in sidewalks, which why 2 years ago did they do that, and then now they're doing it now? Well, now we've got a curb, so I think that they knew that this was going to be forthcoming, and A neighbor of mine says, oh, it's all politics, that I'm not going to go to the meeting tonight because they've already decided. And I thought, I've got to come because it's ridiculous. What else do I want to point out? Do you have anything to say that I've missed?
No, my name is Craig Jurina, and I also live at 244 Homewood Avenue, across from the open field where was supposed to be owned by the city. We received, we received a letter Monday about building this new factory.
No, that wasn't about the factory, it's just adding.
And adding on these two 10,000-gallon tanks and two 5,000-gallon tanks, not saying what's in them. I know they have to have a propellant. It says liquid or gas, but you and I know Voyant, they fill pressurized cans that they sell on the market, and that is a propellant which could catch on fire and explode. And the proximity, first of all, that field is not supposed to be built up. It's for the private use of the wildlife, and the city owned it. I don't know how it got turned over to Voyant and how they got the property in their name. But anyhow, we weren't advised about the change in the property ownership. We weren't, I wasn't advised about the new building, although I did see people out there marking off places where the foundation was going to go, I guess. And then we get the letter. I live with Sue. We've been partners for 24 years. And I don't know, I just think this is surprising. We didn't get invited to any of the previous meetings where they were deciding on this building. This is the first we knew of the building coming in was on Monday. And Thursday, here we are. So I may not be as prepared as I'd like to be, but I really am against this. It's too dangerous. And the traffic, like Sue said, we've got ball games going on over there in the evening. We've got the skate park. We've got the school and all this traffic, and they're going to put in a parking lot across the street from us. And that property was supposed to be for wildlife. So, go figure. So that's what I've got to say right now. Sue?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Also, I wondered how many letters were sent out, because they said within a 300 foot radius.
Mr. Trotter will tell you how many letters were sent out. Whoever from staff addresses it, he'll tell you specifically.
Some of your neighbors didn't get them.
Yeah. I think really it went like 3 houses back on my street. And I went over on the next street and it was basically the same too. So, not everybody was notified that it's going to affect. Nobody at the school that has kids were notified, and those people need to know, which, really they're going to say no, but still. I want to know what 10,000 gallons of fuel will create if it explodes. And then now we're going to have 40,000 gallons?
Chemicals, not fuel.
Well, it was said fuel in the letter that we got.
That either
The
liquid
city
or
can read
gas.
the
says,
letter, but yeah, no, there's no
For
fuel
the storage of
involved.
any liquid or gas in excess of 10,000 gallons, and allow for, so they already got the 10,000 liquid or gas, and then they want 2 more 10,000 gallon tanks and 2 more 5,000, which means 40,000 total. And I want to know,
Maybe the representative from Voyant can address the gas issue. Gas is a generic term that includes air, helium, hydrogen, but
So as far as the tanks are concerned, they will not have any gas in them. It's all liquid. That liquid goes into a can and then gets charged with what you referenced as propellant, which is strictly nitrogen-based. There's only one propellant that is on site.
Did you ever hear of the Hindenburg? And it was filled with. Nothing to say that ever's going to be an accident. I'd like to stop this before the building is built.
There's already 8 tanks there, you realize that.
But it's down the street, and it's probably, what would you say, a mile away? It's being blocked by their building.
We've got more.
Mr. and Mrs. Bannon?
My name is Craig Jurina, her name was Bigham.
Big-
She's lived there for her whole life.
Yeah, based upon the state,
Speak into the microphone.
based upon the statements that I heard, there may be some confusion as to what those flags were. So this is the site plan that I submitted with the application, so it's the same site plan you have. The building expansion that is being proposed is right behind the building that's there now.
So
The
where's
open
Superior
field,
Street?
Superior Street
Okay.
and Riverview.
Okay.
So the green field that exists out there now, and I guess you're on this block here, is not proposed to change in any way. So those were merely survey flags to indicate the limits of the property, not the limits of any building expansion. So
Okay.
I'm sorry there was some
That helps a lot.
misunderstanding.
Well,
Yeah.
that letter is the first
Understood.
indication I had. We didn't even know
Understood.
where the building was going to be.
That's right. So in the letter didn't come with the site plan, so
No.
I'm glad you're here
Yeah.
because that we can straighten that out for you.
Okay.
Between the factory and the railroad tracks.
That's right.
So it's behind the present building.
That's right.
Right
Yeah,
now.
right.
This area over here,
There's no change proposed to what was the original building. All of the building expansion that's planned.
so it's behind the parking lot
Is-
that's there already.
That's right. That's right. And to be clear, this board isn't approving the building expansion.
Right.
That's the subject of a site plan review and is being reviewed very carefully by the engineers and the
I just wanted to make sure that it
planners.
wasn't that field.
Yeah, there's
because
nothing in the
I know
field.
it was supposed to be safe for wildlife, and
Speak in the mic, please.
Please, speak in the
Speak in
mic.
I'm saying that I had called the zoning person, Eric, and asked him with the city when that property was sold, the field. Because if the field is part of their property, I was told the Elkhart city sold it. So who did they sell it to? And did they misinform them that they can't build on it because it's supposed to be for wildlife?
Staff will come forward and we can ask them that question, what the status of that property is.
But it's not part of this project.
Right. But, it should have been told, been more clear on what their plan was, but, I guess that they're more interested in
Well,
talking about the
This is
gas.
the first information we got on it, so, we got a lot of space to be filled in.
And now that he's shown me the map, there is a daycare down on Simpson Street or Avenue, not that far away from where those tanks are going to be. And,
With dental office.
well, he already said that. But also, years ago, they thought the traffic was too crazy in there, and they were going to expand Simpson Street over the river, put a bridge there.
You're getting outside of the.
But I'm still
scope.
talking about traffic. There was a complaint of traffic years ago.
This is only going to add 30 more people, which is significant to those 30 people, certainly, but it's, the traffic that's there is going to be there and stay there. there may be some new traffic with the additional people that are hired, but some of those people will be on second shift and third shift, and
Where are all these tanks going to be placed?
He said behind the building.
Behind the building?
The tanks that are listed,
In the
no
building.
tanks being proposed to be. Or tanks that are going to go in this portion of the site that are crosshatched. The other 16 or 18 tanks that are listed exist throughout the existing building today. Same,
Same stuff that's there already, so. All right, I'm going to have to limit you. I hate to do this, but we've got a lot of people that want to speak, so, but thank you for your comments. And
Thing to keep in mind, too,
hopefully
is
you've
that there
gotten
were
some.
many-
Hopefully you've got some clarification, so.
Yeah.
that's-
Previous water contamination, that's my thing too, so.
I'm Greg Deisenroth. I reside at 240 Homewood Avenue. And at present, I go back to 1959 and 165 Marshall Boulevard. In my years of growing up here in the East Jackson area, I was well aware of what happened with Acropac down at Mills Run Road. The city of Elkhart sent every piece of fire equipment they had to that scene. During the Perrin administration, it was promised to the owner of Acropac that he wanted two 50,000 gallon LP, pressurized LP tanks. Those are bombs, large bombs. And we voted that down. Dave Miller came into office, and we got that put down, those two 50,000 gallon LP tanks. Way too much explosion possibility there. And they assured us it's going to be state-of-the-art fire suppression and mediation procedures and whatnot. Well, it didn't wash, so it went away. But every 10 years or so, it's unfortunate for all these companies that occupy this building, it's zoned for a specific reason to be in that locality. Now we got the city health center there, the city dental thing there. Of course, McDowell Plating's been there forever. The school, like the other people said, the school, the ballparks, lots of people to the ball diamonds. God forbid something should happen, and I know these gentlemen are saying they're not going to have compressed LP gas. They're talking about water and alcohol and nitrogen as a propellant. But LP gas is the go-to compressant for aerosol cans. So we'll see where this company's going, but I have some concerns. I've been handling hazardous materials for most of my life. The railroad, the Army, Miles Laboratories, and now I'm a retiree from the city. I helped Clinton Suggs put together a hazmat program for the city of Elkhart, Department of Public Works under Gary Gillott. I have a wealth of knowledge of hazmat. And also I want to urge you that, and also the company, I hope you guys are on the level that you're not going to put compressed LP gas in there. It's just way too dangerous, and I know fire station number 5 is right next door. They got a ringside seat, God forbid something happens. And I'd like to see those tanks on the south side of your building. So hopefully if there is an explosion and a shockwave, that it goes towards the NIPCO property or the railroad tracks, rather than going east where all the houses are. And I know we're within 300 feet, but if we go to larger quantities like you're asking here, a combination of, we're looking at 30,000 gallons here, not 100,000 gallons of liquid petroleum. 300 feet, we're in danger, God forbid something happens, and I know you guys, you say you're gonna comply with safeguards. Let's hope you keep your word. In closing, this company, all the companies at this location, we have extreme amount of semi-traffic in East Jackson on our streets. Traffic finally put up enough signs to get the trucks stopped coming off of East Jackson to come down to the business. They come off the truck route now up Simpson, and they should enter the property on the southwest corner off of Simpson, not come all the way up to Superior Street and then down and then into their semi-storage place where they have lots of trailers. So we just want to keep a handle on things and make sure you operate in a conscientious and safe manner and consider us residents of Elkhart in this close. And much as my wife, Kathy.
Hi, Kathy Dyson-Roth. Those semis, many times, they have their directions or their GPS is messed up or what have you. They come down our streets. They've torn the wires off of our house. Their semi's too tall and catches our wires from the city, the streets that come into the homes. And it tore the siding off our house. And we've been through a lot over there. And so I know there's going to be more semi-traffic. There's got to be. When you're expanding the business, there's going to be more semi. Why don't you take that truck traffic out the back of the business and then right on to Simpson? I've been saying this for years. Go on to Simpson and then Middlebury. There you are. But no, they bring it down. Those semis come into our neighborhood. And many times they're confused and they leave out our neighborhood streets. So that is a real concern that nobody else seems to be concerned about.
Well, unfortunately, we're not doing anything about that tonight. I don't know who you'd talk to about that. Eric, do you know who they should see about that? You'll talk to them about that. Eric, that handsome man with glasses right there will talk to you about that.
Okay. Yeah, all right, thanks.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Got to sign in. My name is Bob Barnes. I live on Whitmer Avenue, and I'm here because neighbors that got letters. This letter went through our neighborhood like Facebook. All right. So I just got some questions. I've worked at that Whitehall plant, and I don't know if people have known, I don't know if they still have all the air handlers up inside with all the catwalks going to each air handler up in the ceiling there. I built all those. Was part of that team. But they had chemicals in there that on the, I think it's on the south, it'd be the southwest corner of that building is where they package these little bottles of heat for a liniment that you put with a glass rod. You remember that back in the day? And that was all explosion proof in there. And they've had a lot of flammables in there. I'm not saying explosions, but they've had a lot of flammables inside that building when it was Whitehall. Okay, I haven't been in there since it's been Kick or Acropac or Voyant. So this is the questions I have. The emergency response plan. If there's an emergency in that building, how do you notify the neighbors? And during the, is there any chemicals in that plant that would cause evacuations in the neighborhood? Yeah, or the gases. So he said it's a nitrogen-based gas. That's an inert gas. It's, that's not flammable. But are any of the chemicals toxic, hazardous, or flammable? The flammable's been asked or acknowledged. But that's the stuff I'm worried about. I think they'll do a fine job because I know people that do work with them, some vendors and contractors, and I think they do a fine job of making sure they got good work practices and best practices when it comes to manufacturing, handling flammable liquids. And I don't know about their safety. I'm an EHS guy, so I got a little bit of background in environmental stuff, okay? So if we could get those questions asked, I would, because I imagine you guys do a tier 2 every year with a list of chemicals to all your first responders. So that's all I have.
Would you like to respond? I think two things. Obviously, the emergency response plan, and can you be a little more specific about the spill protection that you are putting in place as part of these tanks?
So as far as the emergency response plan, I know we have one. I don't know all the extent of it right now. That would be with our EHS department. And I'm sure I can get that. I can't speak to all the specifics of it, but I know we have it in place that deals with contacting emergency services, who is on the plan based on shift, and who gets contacted when those situations, if they do happen, who gets notified. But I don't have it with me, and I don't know the extent of it, but I know that there is one there, okay? The other question was?
Spill protection. What steps have you taken to prevent spills?
So as far as spill protection, where the tanks that we're talking about will be located, they will be embedded into a pit, a 6-foot deep pit that will, if there is spills in those locations, should account for recovering that from that pit. Is that helpful? Okay.
I assume that's required by federal and state law.
Yes. I mean, based on having those tanks there, it's similar to what we have pre-existing in the plant, is where the other tanks are located. We have the same thing. So it keeps that same standard. Okay.
So if they're putting those tanks inside it, whatever they're setting those in, a retention pit or whatever, that'll hold whatever spills that they have. So I'm not concerned about that. And so.
The comments in opposition.
I'm Cindy Egoff. I live at 201 Homewood, and everyone has pretty much touched on what I'm concerned about, but the main thing is the school, an elementary school, so close. And I know there have been explosions at, I don't know for Voyant, but there have been at that location. The one was not, I don't know, I would say like 7 years ago, maybe a little longer. But I was out walking my dog and it was out on the dock. I don't know if it was something that was, they were loading into a semi or what, but it was handled fairly quickly. But still, just having the option that it might happen when there's little kids so close and families so close, and the kids are playing in the ballpark, there's people playing ball, it just doesn't make sense to me. So, but thank you.
My name's Glenn Miller. I live directly across the street from this factory. Been there nearly going on 30 years now. Tremendous amount of truck traffic, 24/7. And my concern is, and I don't know, I have 2 maple trees out front. I like to sit out under in the summertime in the shade. I watch this traffic. The tankers that deliver this non-explosive materials usually come in the nighttime. Why? Are we hiding something? And it's, you know, it's the traffic, truck traffic is ridiculous out there. The entrance to the facility so poorly marked. The semis will stop on Superior Street, and when I'm sitting out there drinking my coffee or whatever, I have to direct them and tell them where to turn. A lot of these people can't speak English. Can't read the sign. They don't know where to go. And I live
phone that
right
is?
at the corner of Home and Superior. I have had truck traffic coming from the north on Home, semi-traffic, trying to get into this facility. I agree with having the entrance to the facility off of Simpson. That would make way more sense. And I understand what you guys said, you're not dealing with that today, but can we make that a requirement?
Part of this, but you certainly can talk to the city about the traffic issue, because that is a city concern.
Yeah. It's the truck traffic tears up the roads, and it ties up the corner of Simpson and Superior with the semis. The corner is not made to handle that size of a vehicle. I am currently a bus driver for the community, or Elkhart Community Schools, and I come through that area with the bus occasionally, and semi-traffic, you know, up. And by the way, I lived right directly across the street from the factory. I did not get this letter. One of the neighbor ladies was kind enough to bring it to me day before yesterday. So not in favor of a bomb in the neighborhood. So, all I have for you.
Anyone else to speak in opposition?
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Bond. I live at 2210 East Jackson Boulevard. And just to give a little historical perspective, 24 years ago, actually this month, we had a zoning hearing. ACRAPAC was then in the building that we're speaking of today. And they had proposed, as this gentleman talked about, putting some LPG in some rather large tanks. And there was a neighborhood gathering, and we turned into an organization. We were called CORP, Citizens Organized for Residential Protection. And a year ago this month, we had a hearing in front of the zoning board, and the residents did win in that case, and the proposal from ACRAPAC was turned down. I am not here this evening. I'm neither opposed or in favor of what's going on. I'm pro-business for Elkhart, but I just want you to know that there's a sensitivity to this building. Maybe it never should have been built where it was built, but it is there. And I just want you to understand the history behind all of this, and that it has kind of continued to happen, and the sensitivity towards it is because there's been a long-standing tradition of this type of business in that facility, which causes concern for our neighborhood. I was president of the Riverview PTO at the time. I had 2 children in elementary school there, and we were very concerned. So I just hope that this is safe, and I hope that you can guarantee to the neighborhood that it is safe and it's not going to cause any potential harm. I know that you go out of your way for safety, but I also know that human error is always a factor in life. And human error in a neighborhood that's so tightly knit with daycare centers and schools and parks and a neighborhood, you just really have to make sure you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's. Thank you.
Other comments in opposition? No further comments. I will close the public meeting at this time and call staff.
The petitioner is requesting a special exception to allow for the addition of 4 new tanks as a part of an expansion project at the Superior Street facility. The petitioner, doing business as Voyant Beauty, is a manufacturing and packaging plant for aerosol blend configurations and specialty viscous liquids in bottles, tubes, jars for the use in hair, body, face, sun, and natural formulations. The plan is to add additional product lines to increase capacity. The tanks are proposed to be used as a part of the product line expansion. No new chemicals are being added, just additional capacity. Based on plans submitted to the city for review, the tanks will be contained within an enclosure that will have a drain connected to the existing monitoring sanitary sewer line should the tank need to be drained. The construction plans have been submitted for review and approval at tech review for a 60,000 square foot addition on the south side of the current building on Superior Street. This addition is adjacent to the Norfolk Southern Railroad. Staff recommends approval of the request based on the following findings of fact. The special exception is so defined, located, and proposed to be operated so that the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected because all tanks will be built per all applicable codes located within the building and have all necessary floor drains connected to the sanitary sewer system. Number 2, the special exception will not reduce values of other properties in its immediate vicinity because the additional tanks will not change the use of the property and will not impact the adjacent uses. And number 3, the special exception shall conform to the regulations of the zoning district in which it's to be located because the tanks will not generate adverse effects on adjacent properties with noise, emissions, or vibrations. There were 56 letters mailed. With 1 returned not in favor and 3 telephone calls not in favor. And we had an email that came to us this afternoon that reads, further to our telephone conversation a few minutes ago, I have a conflict and cannot attend the BZA hearing tonight, either in person or virtually, but I request that some of the expansion clarification on meeting the record as to the nature of the liquids being stored and permitted to be stored in those new tanks. The petition indicates that one 10,000-gallon tank will be bulk water storage, but the other tanks list some numbers and letters for the contents, specifically due to the liquids that are intended to be stored. Thank you. And or permitted to be stored have characteristics being volatile, hazardous, flammable, or explosive. For context, I recall a very high-profile LP bulk storage tank permitting matter involving Acropack from 20-plus years ago. The same location, the Riverview neighborhood, remains sensitive to the nature of the industrial operations bordering on its south. And it comes to you with a due pass recommendation from the Plan Commission.
Questions for staff?
I think I've had all my questions answered.
This is a loaded question, Mr. Trump. Would be the appropriate authority to address that issue?
Our engineering department, I will relay those concerns.
Need a motion.
I move to approve 24X03 and adopt the petitioner's documents and presentation together with the staff's findings of facts as the board's findings of facts in the present petition.
There is a second.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Davis.
Yes.
Montevirkov.
Yes.
Mulvaney.
Yes. Thank you for all your comments and coming out to speak with us tonight. It is very helpful to have input on these issues. Next item is for UV06.
The petitioner's creative sewing designs and care of James Rupright. The request is to vary from section 18.2 permitted uses in the M1 limited manufacturing district to allow for the property to be used as a daycare center. Daycare centers are not allowed by right in the M1 district.
Petitioner here. Need to pull the mic away.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Trishana Wright Middleton. I operate a licensed childcare in the South Bend area, and I'm petitioning for the building on 2020 Industrial Parkway to be a high-end, upscaled daycare center here in Elkhart.
I have any. It looks like you're going to have a lot of work to do on that building.
It's a lot. It's a lot, but yes.
The good thing is, what is it, between up to 250 children you'll be able to have? Is it?
I don't know if it will be 250. I'm thinking maybe 100 and maybe 150 and maybe 200.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, that will be wonderful. We certainly,
Thank you.
we certainly need that.
Yes,
in town.
we do, especially
It's a
for
good location. It's where the workers are.
That's right.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Now, you've seen the conditions that the city has requested as part of, if we approve this. Do you have any problem with any of the conditions the city has listed?
No, sir.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Have a good one.
Public meeting. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the petition, either in person or on Facebook or on WebEx?
Yeah, I am James Rupright. Basically, it was used for like Lamaze classes and stuff. It's Elkhart General. It was Elkhart General Hospital. Part of that. It was kind of used for classes in the past. So, and that's pretty much it's more office setting. It's not really.
I think in another life, my wife might have taught childbirth classes out there for Elkhart General back in the day.
And pretty much that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Any other persons who wish to speak?
Bring it way up. Good evening. My name is James Middleton. One other thing that there's a plus for this is the economic support and business support for the community in that area. Along with employment, everybody has to also think about how we will better serve our children, and this gives it opportunity to.
Was your father James Middleton? I taught with him at Northside. He was a wonderful man. Yeah.
Other comments in favor? Hearing here, any comments in opposition to the petition? Hearing no comments, seeing no comments.
The petitioner is requesting a use variance to allow the building, the industrial building at 2020 Industrial Parkway to be used as a daycare center. Based on assessor's records, the building was built in 1967 and is just under 30,000 square feet in area and is sited on a 3.37 acre parcel. The operator of the daycare center will lease the building with an option to buy at a later date. The proposed age range of children cared for on site will be newborn to 12 years of age. In speaking with the potential operator, she plans on having ultimately 150 to 200 children and around 100 staff Utilizing aerial photos, staff determined the current parking area would accommodate approximately 106 parking spaces. Planning staff, building, and fire inspectors toured the facility at 2020 Industrial Parkway on April 5th, 2024. During the tour, a number of observations were made. The concrete block building had a large number of classroom-sized rooms, as well as several larger open space areas that would be well suited for indoor play equipment and play space for children. The building had a large kitchen area that is intended for warming only, and there were 3 sets of restrooms. At least one or otherwise specified by the state will need to be modified with smaller fixtures to accommodate children. It was apparent that much of the building's carpet would either need to be replaced, cleaned, and/or removed entirely. Many of the ceiling tiles, there is a drop ceiling in most of the building, will need to be replaced. As the building was most recently a small manufacturing company, the walls will also need to be repaired and painted to restore the walls. They look to have been damaged from likely moving furniture out of the building. In the past, the building was previously owned by Elkhart General Hospital for some sort of medical and office use. Based on the building tour, the fire department inspectors relayed necessary and critical information to the operator. A plan would need to be developed meeting Chapter 34 of the Building Code to ensure occupancy requirements are met as the functional classification is changing. Those plans will need to be signed and sealed by a design professional willing to certify the plans and submitted to the state for review and approval. Staff recognizes there is a critical need for additional daycare facilities. The location of the building would seemingly allow those individuals who work in this and surrounding industrial parks an opportunity for childcare within close proximity of their workplace. The daycare operator shall be required to obtain a license per Indiana Code 1217.2. Any modifications to the building will require building department review and approval. Submittal at tech review will not be required unless renovation plans require exterior changes to the footprint of the building or additional paving. Staff recommends approval of the use variance based on the following findings of fact. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community because the building will be required to be modified to the current building code requirements, as well as any condition or stipulation required by the State of Indiana Family and Social Services Administration, Office of Childhood and Out-of-School Learning. Number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because the proposed use as a daycare center, most all activities will occur indoors and would be an asset at this facility and be an asset as this facility would provide a needed service for the workers in the area. Number 3, the need for the variance arises from some condition peculiar to the property involved because without board action, this use would not be permitted. Number 4, the strict application of the terms of this ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought because the building was constructed with many offices and open spaces which lends itself reasonably well to the proposed use. Most contemporary industrial users require much more ceiling height and open area for production. Number 5, the approval does not comply with the comprehensive plan, which calls for the area to be developed with industrial uses. However, the site was historically used as a facility that provided space for community gathering, and the proposed use is similar in its mission. There were, sorry, too many pages. Conditions. If the board chooses to approve the requested use variance, staff recommends that the following conditions be placed upon the approval. Number 1, the petitioner shall submit plans for building renovations to the state as per Chapter 34 of the Building Code. The petitioner shall also obtain permits for any other work performed on premises from the city of Elkhart. All children shall be restricted to the building or any future exterior fenced-in play area except when arriving or leaving. Number 3, the facility and grounds shall be kept clean at all times. Number 4, the facility shall be subject to inspection upon reasonable notice by the zoning administrator during hours of operation. Number 5, any exterior display signs or other forms of advertising on the premises shall be required to obtain a zoning clearance prior to installation. Signage is required to be installed by a bonded sign contractor. Number 6, a copy of the child care license shall be submitted to the Department of Planning and Zoning upon receipt from the Indiana Family and Social Services Administration. Number 7, if the daycare ceases to operate for more than 1 year or the license is revoked, the use variance shall become null and void. Number 8, any violation of the terms of this use variance as determined by the city zoning administrator shall render the use variance invalid. Number 9, the number of children to be cared for at this location will be calculated by the Indiana Family and Social Services Administration. Number 10, pickup and drop-off shall occur on-site, and any aftercare bus drop-offs must take place on-site and not from the public right-of-way. And number 11, the use variance is for 2 years and shall be reviewed as a staff item by the Board of Zoning Appeals by April 11, 2026. There were 22 letters mailed, 1 telephone call not in favor with no comment, and 2 returned in favor with comments. Unsafe area, industrial noise, railroad tracks. And the other railroad tracks are located directly behind their business, which would possibly be a concern for the children. Safety of the children. Building on the east side of 2020 Industrial Parkway has semis that come in and off all day, pulling up next to their building and backing their semis into their docks. And traffic in front of 2020 Industrial Parkway can be dangerous. The drivers that are arriving late to their jobs drive very fast past this business, and when they get off work and in a hurry to get home, so they drive way too fast.
Thank you. All right, this time I entertain a motion.
I move to approve 24 UV06 and adopt the petitioner's documents and presentation, together with the staff's finding of fact as the board's finding of fact in the present petition, and adopt all conditions listed in the staff report.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call for the roll call vote.
Davis.
Yes.
Bonjarakoff. Mulvaney.
Yes. Congratulations. Go open a daycare. Thank you.
Yes, get that done.
Well done. Any other staff items? Do I hear? Turn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're done. Thank you very much.
That was an